Once again, welcome out. So we are going to be featuring today, we have Steve Hammond from Adobe, we have Khang from Vivint Solar, Chris Johnson, and oh my goodness, Kasey from Lucid Software, Adam Finch and Agee from SoFi. We've got Morgan Powell from HireVue and Ashley Nelson from Entrata. So great lineup today of recruiters. And finally, we have Tanya Davis, who will be our moderator today. So let's please give a Huntsman welcome to our Silicon Slopes recruiters.
Okay, thank you all for coming today. I just want, again, to extend a warm welcome to all of our guests today. In my role in the Huntsman School, it's my great pleasure to have the opportunity to work with professionals such as these every day. I love my job. I love the opportunity I have to connect students with these companies and great employers. So we're really excited to have some of our favorites and best from the state of Utah here today. And I hope you guys are all excited about the opportunity that this gives you to connect with these individuals. So again, thank you for coming today and welcome. We're going to start off by giving each of these panel members an opportunity to take 2 or 3 minutes and introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their companies. So let's start with you, Kasey and Chris.
Everybody hear me okay? So I am Kasey. I'm the Talent Acquisition Manager with Lucid Software. I don't know how familiar you are with Lucid. We've been around for about 5-6 years. We essentially have 2 technologies that we work with. Our main technology is Lucid Chart. It's a cloud-based visual productivity platform, usually to use for diagramming. And then our other technology is Lucid Press, which is a web-based content platform that you can use to build brochures or essentially another use for like a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, and then Chris will go over what positions we have open in technology.
Just introduce like our background?
Just tell us a little bit about Lucid to start, and then we'll go into opportunities in a little bit. So.
Yeah, so I am the tech recruiter at Lucid, and she kind of gave a good spiel of our product. We're growing pretty fast now, and I think in a lot of our tech roles like UX and engineering, analytics, data science, we're growing kind of faster than we can keep up with. So we have a lot of opportunity for new blood and experienced blood as well. So.
How's everyone doing? My name is Khang, and I am the Talent Acquisition Manager at Vivint Solar. So Vivint Solar and Vivint Smart Home, there's a differentiate there, sorry. We are the sister company of Vivint Smart Home, and we're a residential solar company. So when you're looking at our employees, we've actually grown from 1,000 employees to about 4,000 employees within the last year. And that's not all the door-to-door salespeople that you see on our commercials and things like that. It's actually through our corporate functions and our infrastructure. And so thanks for the invite, and excited to talk to you guys.
Hi, I'm Steve Hammond from Adobe, and I'm not sure I'm supposed to be here necessarily. I'm actually not with our recruiting team. I'm here representing our product management teams, but I'm very happy to tell you about opportunities at Adobe. So Adobe, as you probably know, has 2 major divisions. We have the Creative Cloud business, which is all about Photoshop, Illustrator, and the creative products. And then we have another major division, which is what we call the Experience Cloud, which is all the enterprise products that we use to be able to help large corporations be able to understand how to run their digital business. And types of jobs that we have include jobs in consulting, where you can go out and work with customers and help them implement our technologies within their technology stacks. We have jobs that include product management, we have engineering jobs, we have jobs in accounting and finance, a lot of jobs in customer success roles where you're helping customers to be able to have a deeper relationship with the brand. We have about 17,000 employees in the company, and we generally have about 100 to 200 jobs open at any given time.
So actually, while you still have the mic,
Sure.
Since you're not in a recruiting role, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do at Adobe?
Yeah, sure, happily. I'm here mostly because I came to school here and I love Utah State. And we've had some discussions around how can Utah State and Adobe develop some deeper relationships. I've been with Adobe for 13 years. I went there straight after earning my MBA here at Utah State. And it was a small company at the time called Omniture, and we just did web analytics, and we started building a business around that. And about 6 years after I joined, we sold that company to Adobe for $1.8 billion. And then and now since that time, we've grown that business, which at the time they bought us was $400 million, up to about $2 billion for that same business. So tremendous trajectory and growth with the business, and I lead our product management teams at Adobe.
Hi everyone, I'm Adam Finch. I'm the recruiting manager at SoFi, which is short for social finance. We've been around for about 6 years, Bay Area homegrown company that moved out here to Utah 1 year ago when I joined the company after being in San Francisco for 19 years. Super excited. We actually offer student loans, personal loans, mortgages, and wealth management services. A bunch of Stanford grads got together and revolutionized student loan industry. So we've sort of turned it upside down on its head, and we're making lots of money, saving you guys lots of money from your student debt, and we're trying to apply those same principles and those same activities to other parts of our business as we continue to grow. We've hired 1,000 people in the last 12 months. Super excited about the sort of expansion here in Salt Lake City. When we joined when we agreed with the governor of Salt Lake to join Salt Lake and come out here, we had promised them to hire 500 people in 4 years, and I think we're at 450 in 1 year. So we're doing lots of cool stuff, and we've actually hired people to work in our mortgage business from the Pro Sales group here at USU, and they're super successful. There's a couple of them here today, and we're excited to be here and tell you about SoFi.
Hi, I'm Agee. I'm also with SoFi. I'm a recruiter there. I think Adam covered it pretty well. I would say that Adam talked a lot about our finance side of things, but we're also a tech company. That's why we're on this panel today. We classify ourselves as fintech, which means that we offer financial products, but we build all of the technology to service those products. And that's kind of what makes SoFi a disruptor, I guess, in the financial sector. But happy to be here today. Excited to get questions from you all.
Hi, my name is Morgan Powell. I am a recruiting manager at HireVue, and so HireVue, it's great to segue to add what to our CEO had said about the company. But it is a SaaS company with a recruiting software, so in the HR tech space, which we are really well known for in the HR tech space. We've won quite a few awards, have a lot of recognition, and we just help companies hire better talent faster and retain that talent and develop that talent. So it's exciting to be a recruiter with HireVue and to utilize that software. It makes my job a lot easier, and I think that's about it for me.
I get the fancy lapel. I've never used one of these before. It's kind of cool. My name is Ashley Nelson, and I am the Talent Acquisition Manager at Entrata. So Entrata was founded in 2003, property management software. Started out as Property Solutions, if any of you guys might be a little too young. We rebranded a couple of years ago to Entrata, which is the name of our core platform. So our main goal at Entrata is to make the lives of large property management and property owners, organizations, make their lives easier. So we have about 42 different products, everything from marketing, so building websites and doing all of their online marketing, to leasing products, and we also have with our core platform all their accounting and back-end operations. So everything that they would need to run their entire business off of that one platform and one login. So like I said, we were founded in 2003. With our U.S. operations, we're about 800 employees. We have our main office in Lehi, some U.S.-based sales reps throughout the U.S., and then a small office in Texas. And then we have an office of about 800 developers and engineers over in Pune, India. So.
Well, thank you all for taking a few minutes to tell us a little bit about your companies. As you guys can see, we have a really wide variety here. Even though these are all tech companies, they all are in very different spaces, I would say, and have just a lot of variety in roles and what the companies do. So I just want to talk for just a minute about, we really have an exciting thing happening here in Utah, and I assume that all of you as students are here because you know about the boom that's happening right now in the tech industry in Utah. And it's just a great place to be and amazing opportunities for you as you're coming out of college. So I would just like to hear from a few of you and anyone who wants to take this question, but why do you enjoy working in the tech industry in Utah and recruiting for roles here in Utah in these companies?
So my name is Allie. One thing I didn't mention is, I've only been working with SoFi for about 6 months. I graduated in May with my master's degree and went on the job market looking for something, and was really interested in getting a job in tech. Even though I knew I wanted to be in recruiting, wasn't going to do anything on the technical side. I wanted to work for a tech company because I wanted to move fast. I think that's one of the things that keeps me coming back to work every day, is that I'm never bored. Even in recruiting, right? Things are constantly changing. Even though, our company is now more of like a big cruise liner, we still get to make decisions and do things as if we're, a jet ski or something. So I think that's what is so attractive about working in these spaces.
I'll quickly add, since I have the microphone here. It's interesting to look back at the growth of how technology has influenced the lives of everybody around the world. When I was in college, it was everything was dial-up. You had this modem that would screech when you would dial into it, and we never had we had obviously cell phones, but there was nothing like a smartphone at the time. And the thing that really held back growth in the industry was connectivity. But over the last 10 plus years, that has completely become a non-issue, because everybody now carries around a phone that's as powerful as a computer was 10 years ago, and they all have bandwidth that is better than 20 supercomputers did 10 years ago as well. And the interesting thing about where technology is going is that it is becoming an embedded part of all of our lives in ways that it's now so natural that a lot of us don't even think about it anymore. And if you think about the opportunity to work at a technology company, you really have the opportunity to be able to shape the future of the way that all people interact with each other, with technology, with brands, etc. I've seen that tremendously over the last 10 years. And it's really, this feels like, some people coin this as kind of the fourth industrial revolution. If you look back at the different times in history when things have really changed the way that humans interact with each other or with brands, this is one of those times. And it's already begun, and it's only going to continue. So as far as I'm concerned, Utah has kind of been a little bit on the outside of that for a little while. But over the last 10 to 15 years, that has completely changed. You see it growing here in this valley, but if you go down by Salt Lake area, especially down by the point of the mountain, there were 5 years ago a handful of businesses that were geared around technology, and now there are at least 24 large buildings that are housing dozens and dozens of technology companies, many of which are now making hundreds of millions of dollars and even billions of dollars. So as far as my view on this goes, it's a great opportunity for you to grow your careers in technology, but as far as Utah is concerned, this is becoming a hub for technology that many other places in the world completely envy.
That was really good. Not sure how I'm going to follow that up, but so what's really cool to see just the tech space grow from a regional level is really from the grassroots level. I don't know how many of you guys attend like user groups or anything like that, but just kind of seeing that scene grow, especially down in the Silicon Slopes or down in Lehigh or in Salt Lake County, is really exciting, because you're seeing a lot of thought leaders come in and really be a part or be the forefront of the technology movement here. And to have these thought leaders not only work in our region but within our organizations is something that's very exciting. So that's my.
Yeah, I think just to add to what they've already said, I've had the opportunity to do recruiting in a couple different markets like Seattle and Boston and in Silicon Valley. And I think that what's exciting about Utah is where I think in a lot of these other markets, success and growth is kind of assumed. It's still kind of the Wild West out here. There's a lot of thirsty people that are hungry for opportunity, and even though we're smaller in scale, I think we're much larger in passion. So.
Sorry, I apologize for our shortage of mics. We don't usually have this large of a group in our panels, so.
That's not a problem, we can share just fine. One of my favorite things about being a recruiter and finding good talent at HireVue, and we're not necessarily in the Silicon Slopes, because I know that the billboard welcoming you to Silicon Slopes is more towards, around the point of the mountain as you're going south into southern Utah. So, but being in the tech space, in the tech world in Utah, one of the things is that it's kind of like, there's so much unknown, and there is a lot of change, and that's going to be constant in your life. But if you can get on the bandwagon with that, and even if you're partnering with a company that is a little bit younger, so they still have changes to go through, definitely you want to research about what they're all about, and if you can, align yourself with their philosophies and so forth. But they're going to be changing, they're going to be growing, and if you can stick through those growing pains, and you'll find that you grow, and there's a lot of other places that you could go. There's a lot of innovation happening, and as you're a part of that, you can gain that excitement. You can gain that future perspective of places you could go. So.
Yeah, to echo that, I think Utah's a really exciting place for specific to SoFi. There's a huge hub of finance companies here, of traditional banking, wealth management, investment banking. So you've got a lot of that sort of experience here, and then technology in the last 5 years has really skyrocketed. And so for us, as we do all of our data analytics about where we want to sort of grow our business, which we are going, to Australia, Canada, and Europe, specifically England. Utah made sense for us because there's a merge between what's really happening here. So it's a really exciting time to be a part of tech, and for us, the merge between finance and tech. Hence our coming here to Utah. I would say, being in the Bay Area where I grew up in technology and recruiting for technology companies, I'm excited that Adobe actually just acquired a company here, because I think they were the first ones to really sort of set the stage. Plus, they have the really cool building out there if you haven't driven by. You are, yeah. So they're kind of the pioneers as far as helping this exciting growth period within tech in Utah. And now we're just riding coattails, and now we're competition, right? But at the end of the day, I think the healthier that we all make this industry, and we continue to help Utah be a place that will attract top companies and will attract top talent like yourselves, we're doing our job. So it's a great, exciting time to be here.
Well, thank you all for your insights on that question. It really kind of bridges into my next question. So several of you kind of talked about this, but we had the opportunity to hear this morning from a group of our young alumni sales professionals, some of them from your companies. So we had representation from Lucid, we had representation from SoFi, and a few other companies. And one of the questions that they were asked was, why did you choose the company that you work for? And they all talked about finding that fit, so that culture where you fit, the company that has a working style that you work with. All of those things are important when you're thinking about where you want to work. What is the work-life balance like? What is the working environment like? So I've had the opportunity, I think, to visit all of your offices, and I will say that I have been impressed by every single one of them, but they all have a very different cultural feel. There's a lot of elements that are the same but different. So maybe if each of you could just take a minute and tell us a little bit about the culture at your company. What is the work-life balance? What are some of the values that your company values? So let's go ahead and start with you, since you've got the mic. Okay. Great, thank you.
Yeah, the culture is a big attraction for people coming out of college and considering a new company. So we're very innovative. As Ali sort of mentioned, we move really fast. And we're a trendsetter. So we're the top fintech company that's generating massive amounts of revenue, and it attracts some really smart people that are really innovative, entrepreneurial, take risks. In fact, our CEO is very much like, I empower you guys to do what you need to get the job done, make choices, take risks. You won't be punished for making a mistake unless you do it again. I think it attracts a really interesting group of people because I would say the work-life balance is not great because we're all super passionate about what we're doing and we're willing to keep working harder and faster to get the job done. But on the back end, we're rewarded because every position within the company has a bonus potential. So, it's not like you're just a slave to the job. But I would say one thing that's probably another attraction is our products are meant for millennials. The majority of our customer base are millennials, not exclusively, but majority. And we have an acronym for them, for you guys, which is it's a Henry. And it's a high earner, not rich yet. So if you think about how you guys interact with the world, you have a good relationship with your smartphone, right? Our products are built around that, around speed, around ease, around function. And so I think naturally for our customers to benefit, it's a good thing to have millennials working at the company because you guys know yourselves best.
I don't want to hog the mic too much about SoFi, so I'll just add a few things that I think maybe I have a unique perspective on. So I think at SoFi, I've never worked somewhere where everyone I know and everyone I interact with is one of the most competent and hardworking individuals I think I've ever met. So I think if we could say one thing that is the culture of SoFi, it's that our employees work hard. They do their jobs and they do them very well. And that's the type of person we look to hire in all of our positions, regardless of where you're going, from our customer service agents all the way up to our senior software engineers. We want people who are go-getters, who are gonna who are like, okay, I got this job, but I've already got my next 5 steps planned, right? So I think that's one unique thing about the culture, is that you're working with people who work very hard and who are very good at what they do.
So I have been at HireVue for 3 months. So this is, my perspective, really fresh. And I've been able to, convey this to people who are, they're job shoppers, right? You guys are going to be, okay, how's the culture? Because that's really important in, today's world. A lot of people ask how the culture is. What's my environment going to be like, right? You want to know what you're going to be affected by and what you're going into, and that's really smart to ask, those questions around that. About HireVue, some insight into that. So since we are a global company, it's really cool. We have employees who are in Australia and UK. So we have employee base everywhere, and I find that even our remote employees, they do feel included. And the culture is pretty consistent throughout, which is very hard to, establish and maintain, right? But it comes from our C-level executives in our company. I'm finding that HireVue, or I found, that HireVue, when I was interviewing, they have these attributes, right? Attributes is what we call them, a play on words of, HireVue. And I find that they are who they say they are. And that was really important to me because, they weren't portraying, something different. They were very transparent, and they were very real about who they were going to be. They're like, we want you to be an owner of HireVue. That's our number one attribute, and everything that entails. That's probably my favorite attribute, next to disagree and commit, because it's okay to disagree, but let's get on the train that's going to take us on that idea, and that is going to take us to success. But acting like an owner just means you're obviously an ambassador. You want to be an ambassador for a company, right? And so everything that entails, you're involved in the decision-making process. you're involved in, you know, a lot of things, and they don't keep their employees in the dark. You know, they treat you like, you know, you're a partner in the company. They can tell us so much, right? There's some things that they definitely, you know, have to keep under wraps, but you know, for reasons that the company could get in trouble. But you know, definitely they try to keep their employees in the light as much as they can, and I've really appreciated that. You know, being open in company discussions, you know, where we have company meetings monthly and everyone wants to ask the hard questions. Those are always welcomed, you know, ask the hard questions and get that out of the way. And that's something that I've really enjoyed about being at HireVue. For, you know, there's a lot of camaraderie, but everyone is under the same understanding of the company because it comes from the C-level executives.
One of my, well, I get asked the question all the time, what's your favorite thing about working at Entrata? And my answer always comes back to our company values. I've worked for a number of organizations before working at Entrata, and you know, we always have the company mission statement hanging up in the break room, and it's, you know, that eagle flying over a mountain that says, be your best and be great. You guys, maybe you know what I'm talking about, maybe some of you up here will know. But one thing that I love about Entrata, which is very much so tied into our culture, is our core values. And those 5 values, our executive team took, you know, a couple of days. They went and locked themselves, I'm sure, in a very nice cabin in the mountains with some consultants, and they wrote out. My boss still has all of the, you know, the little vision boards and stuff of all the issues that they were facing at Entrata, and that's how they worked through and came to our 5 values. And those values are be the Joneses. Some of them are tied to 80s movies, so you guys were probably all born in the 90s, so this won't help me out a whole lot. But be the Joneses, so we want to be the industry leaders. So I don't know if any of you have heard the phrase keeping up with the Joneses. We want to be the Joneses. We want to set the industry standard. Be excellent to each other. That, of course, is for our clients, but also internally, making sure we're taking care of each other as a company and our teams. Be the real deal is another one, and that is we are who we say we are, and we'll do what we say we do. Talk to me, Goose. It's a Top Gun reference. That's we communicate to empower. So once again, making sure we're communicating with our clients, but also internally as well. And then my favorite is business in the front, party in the back. We have a lot of fun. We work very, very hard. A lot of our teams work around the clock. And we work really hard, but we play really hard. If you've had the chance to visit our offices, I know, like Tanya said, she came. We have 2 double-decker buses, so if that's not enough for you to apply, I don't know what will get you guys to apply at Entrata, but one is running and operating. It's in our parking lot. The other one lives inside, interactive dance floor, slide down the back, lots of fun stuff. But the work-life balance is incredible. They have a strong emphasis on the family. If you're doing what you need to do, getting your work done, they take a lot of pride in your life outside of work. And that also ties into the team atmosphere that we have. I know obviously I have a lot of friends throughout the organization that, you know, on Friday I'm asking them what they're doing. Like, oh, our team's going, you know, to do karaoke tonight, or we're going to a basketball game. And I'm like, you just worked like 40 to 60 hours with these people and you want to spend more time with them? But I feel that way about my team as well. I love my HR team and my recruiting team, and we're very proud to spend that time together, and we're proud of our product. And Entrata is a phenomenal place to work because of those values. Another thing that I would say that I'm also proud to say is you could walk around the organization and ask any of our employees what the values are, and I'd put my 401k that 95% could get all 5 of them. So everyone knows what the values are and how important they are to our organization.
So the reason that I moved to Lucid is because everyone that I met and everyone that I currently work with is an expert at their craft, but they would never tell you that. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. So our CEO, Carlson, he got his bachelor's and master's degree from MIT, got his law degree from Harvard, but when he talks about it, he says, when I was in Boston. or when I lived in Boston. He will never go out and tell you that he has all these degrees and all this knowledge. And that trickles down to everyone that you work with at Lucid. They are truly experts of their craft, but they are so collaborative and so humble. And it really goes back to our value of teamwork over ego, meaning that we really do everything we can to create this culture of trust. Innovation is not our goal. It's this culture of trust, and innovation is a byproduct of that. So we create this culture where you feel like you can share your ideas and you can innovate and you can be authentic and be yourself, and you can fail, because we all know we've all failed, we've all been there, but there's not this. We are very good at separating when you fail, identifying yourself as a failure, and seeing a failure and looking at it as to what's missing. And so I really love working at Lucid, because I feel like it's always a collaboration and we're always in it to win it as a team, not as individuals.
Yeah, so just to echo kind of what she said, one of the reasons I came here was in my interactions with the people that I spoke with, one of our values rang true amongst all of them, which is teamwork over ego that she kind of mentioned earlier. I think the interesting thing about Lucid, when I toured their space and when I talked with some of the people there, is so our CTO sits right between two QA engineers. Our CEO has a desk up by the sales team. There's no offices in our building, and it really creates a collaborative environment where you feel like when you need to, you can pull these decision makers or these people with great minds into the process with you. So. Yeah.
All right. So at Vivint Solar, I think something that if you ever come down to our building or talk to any of our leaders or actually hear our leaders when they come and speak, a theme that always resonates that you'll hear over and over again is that, are you playing to play or are you playing to win? So that means that when you show up to work every day, are you just showing up for a paycheck? Are you showing up just to push buttons and then just call it a day? Or are you showing up to really make a difference in not only everyone's lives and your life, but on the overall impact on the earth? So with that being said, I think innovation is something that is very valued at Vivint Solar. How we started was about 6 years ago. It was just we have an idea board at Vivint Smart Home, where employees can go and just kind of stick ideas on what would be a good idea for the organization. And I mean this is anyone that works within Vivint Smart Home. And someone put we should start a solar company, and the executives saw it and thought that was a great idea and ran with it. And here we are 6 years later. So it's not only just meeting the bar at Vivint Solar, but it's also raising the bar. But on the flip side of that, just like our counterparts at Entrata, we love to party. We have a great time at Vivint Solar. We utilize the arena a lot, since we've paid a lot of money to put our names on the arena. But we have VivintCon every year where we bring in smart home and solar, and we throw a private concert. Last year we had One Republic there for all just Vivint Solar employees, and that's going back to really being employee centric, and that's what it's all about. It's organization and goals and values and mission. It's all important. That stuff's really important. But what really makes our company go is the employee experience. So.
Yeah, sorry.
Did you turn it off? Is it working? Okay. So Adobe's motto is to change the world through digital experiences. And I've had a chance to work with a lot of employees over the years, and the big thing that I can say is the reason people want to come into work every day is because they're developing things that they feel like are making a difference, either for the industry or for the world or for themselves. People come into work because they want to be passionate about what they're working on, and that they're actually doing something that is meaningful. And I've seen that over the years with Adobe as we develop a lot of products that make a big difference. We've literally seen the way that people interact with the internet change because of technologies that we've made available. And so that is a big motivator. People want that intrinsic reward of being part of something special. Much like the other companies up here, we have a lot of value weighted against the values that you would want to have in a company, being genuine and good. I have a coworker who just recently came across from Microsoft, and he worked there for 17 years. And when he came to Adobe, he said he wished he had done it earlier. It was one of those opportunities he felt like, from the outside, he always thought Adobe looked like a fun company, but coming in, he really felt energized. He felt like the products that were being delivered were things that people wanted. And I think the true reflection of that comes to the customers. When we go and meet with our customers, we have these big customer advisory boards that we hold, and the customers believe in the message and in what we're delivering, and that is part of why people want to come work for Adobe.
Great. Thank you for all of your answers. You guys all did a great job answering that question, and I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for you guys to ask questions from our panel, but let me just say, following up on what you've all said, so I mentioned that I've been to all of these companies, and I want you to notice that exactly none of them talked about the open kitchen or the free soda machine or the awesome climbing wall that's now the new Lucid building. Ashley mentioned the bus, but it is pretty awesome. The slide is awesome.
You can't not mention that.
You kind of have to, yeah. You didn't talk about the gym that's out above the highway, right? So there are a lot of great things and beautiful buildings for all of you, but that's not why you want to work at a specific company. So I would encourage you to take the time while all these guys are here to talk to them. And don't be afraid if you're interviewing and talking with companies to ask about their values. Ask employees who aren't interviewing you, what are the company values, and see if they know what's the leadership style. All of those things, those are very important questions when you're thinking about working for a company. So now we'll turn the time over to Derek with the mic and let you guys ask any questions that you have.
Great. So if you would just raise your hand for me, I will walk by, hand over the mic to one of you. Please stand, state your name, your major, and then go ahead and ask a question. So we'll start with the first hand.
Ryan Goodmanson, Information Systems. Innovation is a buzzword that we hear a lot in class and in panels. So can you give us an example of what innovation means to your company, what a product has done to actually change the company and the industry you work in?
I can take that one. I have the mic. So one of the things that we love to look at in terms of innovation is innovation can mean something new. It can also mean taking something you already have and reinventing it. One of the big areas of innovation right now is in machine learning and artificial intelligence. And in fact, as far as jobs and careers go, I think that's the future high growth and earning opportunity in a lot of spaces, is to get in and really understand how to apply automation and machine learning to create optimization and to create better efficiencies within companies. It's where a lot of growth is and will continue to be going forward.
I'll take a stab at it. So innovation for us, if you look at just the solar market in general, it's a market that's in its infancy. It's a very immature market. So innovation for us is actually looking for a fully integrated ecosystem, meaning that not only can you get solar panels from us, but you can also get your smart home from us, and you can also get an electric port to charge your car and your home batteries. So it's a vertically integrated ecosystem. From a technological standpoint, it's integrating all those products to talk to each other and to gain efficiencies. It really boils down to saving the consumer money and making the earth greener. So
I think we'll keep rolling. I'll be watching for hands, and we'll take maybe 2 more answers to this. If we have maybe 3 to 4 of you answer each question, that way we'll rotate. If you want to go.
Okay, so I'd really like to add to that, because innovation at our company means that it's going to change lives. A job is a livelihood, and the cool thing that HireVue can do is connect people across the world. We've had people take interviews in remote parts of China. That blows my mind. But you're like, is there internet there? Of course there's internet there. There's internet everywhere. There's the capability for that. But innovation is huge. A huge factor, because you have to make your product better, right? We need to make our product better because we want to connect those people, and we want to make sure that the companies get the right fit to fill those positions. and that the employee gets the right fit, or the potential employee gets the right fit. So it's really cool for me to say, that innovation in our company means changing lives.
Great, thank you.
My name's Jordan, so I'm studying business administration and human resource management. Many students here are looking for jobs. You talk about career shopping, stuff like that. But one concern is that once we get there, we'll be overwhelmed or maybe not find the right path to success. So what was one attribute that some of you felt really contributed to that success, whether it was a mentor, a training program, anything really?
Sorry, I've got the mic, so I can just answer. Let me clarify your question. So you mean what helped us when we were on maybe the job market, or what do we think could potentially help you when you're on the job market to try and to be confident that the job we're taking is correct, is the right fit? Is that?
Okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying. So yes, to be confident that it is the right fit, and then when you get there, how did you become from a brand new employee to a successful employee?
That's a great question. I think, like I said, I was only at SoFi. I've only been there for about 6 months. I think that in terms of, is it the right job? Is it the right job that you're taking? We can never be 100% sure, right? We can know that we like the culture. We can know that the job sounds interesting to us. We can ask about values. But at the end of the day, if you've got two exactly equal job offers, sometimes you just have to go with your gut. And I really believe that. I believe that, trusting in what feels right to you is a good call. But then I guess in terms of how do you be successful when you get to the job, hard work always shows, right? You can come up with all of these strategies for how do I, make sure that my boss sees the work that I'm doing, or, how do I find the right mentor? But at the end of the day, I think that if you work very hard and you let your work speak for that, then you're going to be successful.
So one thing I would say is, I don't think that feeling ever goes away, right? I think that the jobs that you take or the things that you do, there's always going to be a moment in time where you feel inadequate or you feel nervous for the endeavor ahead. I think that one thing I learned early on was to not be afraid to tell your colleagues or your leaders that you don't know how to do something. I think that there's value in sharing your lack of knowledge in a situation, because if you don't mention that maybe you haven't been trained how to do this, or you don't know the best way to approach the situation, they'll assume that you do. And I guess what happens from there kind of falls on your shoulders. So don't be afraid to ask questions, even if you think they're stupid questions. Don't be afraid to kind of take a jump into the dark.
Just want to add, as far as I'm concerned, what I've seen as the most valuable characteristic that someone brings into a new job is grit. And I think related to that is getting stuff done. So, I see so many people who come into a job and they feel like they need to understand everything, but the people who really succeeded want to just get their hands dirty and get things done. That's what I've seen.
Great, thank you.
Tyrell Hubbard. I'll be graduating in December with Management Information Systems and Accounting degree, both of them. One thing I've been wondering a lot lately and trying to figure out is I want to find a job where I feel like it's been mentioned a little bit today, where I feel like I made a difference at the end of the day when I go home. And so just maybe, why do you feel like when you go home at the end of the day from your job, why do you feel like you've actually made a difference in the day? Because it was brought up as well is that you don't want to just go there and get a paycheck and go home, but actually feel like you're making a difference, whether it's in the world, with your coworkers, whatever it is. Why do you feel like you've done that?
I think that's very individual, and some of it, I see two parts to that. So part of it is your drive, right? And then the other part is, maybe your environment, right? The environment at HireVue is it is a mentorship, and it's like many of the other companies here and I think we're all drinking the Kool-Aid or something, but we seem to love our jobs. So that's a good sign, that there are really good companies in the Valley and really good opportunities. But where you're going to find the difference is, early on when you ask those questions, you know what you're getting into, right? As well as, growth, your individual growth. As you change, right, and as you grow, I think that's a huge part of, feeling accomplished. It seems like, you're searching for that accomplishment. You want to feel satisfied at the end of the day. You're not going to live in a perfect world where, you feel like that every day. But I think a really big part is knowing that, you have the opportunity to partner yourself with a company that is going to be invested in you and is going to allow you to move and ask questions about other departments and other things that you could do and your potential. But, your contribution to that and working hard for that as well and showing that excitement, I think that's going to contribute a lot too. So there's those two parts of it. You have to, maybe find that within yourself, but you also want to make sure that you're partnering yourself with a company that's kind of their vision too.
Great. So we have time for, actually we'll go to Kasey, and then we'll have one more question from the audience before we do a wrap-up question with Tanya Davis.
Sorry, I just wanted to add on really quickly. I love what you said about really being present with what you love and what you're passionate about. I truly believe that if you're passionate about something and you have grit behind it and you really go after it, you're going to find companies and you're going to find people that you work with that are also passionate about that. And you'll leave the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, from an art director to a product manager, feeling like you made a difference.
Hi, I'm Barbara Thompson, and I get to help students in the Huntsman School carve out their career paths. I want to go back to the artificial intelligence topic. I've heard from a lot of executives with global Silicon Valley about how artificial intelligence is going to progress really quickly in the next few years and enable and augment the work of what people can do. So, for instance, an accountant will now be able to do the work of 10 people. A financial planner could do the work of 10 people. What advice do you have for these students as they carve out their career paths so they can avoid getting replaced by computers, how they can navigate that and be strategic? I mean, because they're even talking about things like creating engineering software that produces engineering software. So even the engineers could be creating things that will replace themselves. So since you're Silicon Slopes, we would love to hear advice you have for them so they can be the ones leading and helping these things happen rather than being what they might see as the victims of it, even though they really aren't.
There was a recent kind of look back on different industries that had a lot of automation applied to them. And one of them was around the financial services industry. And there was speculation that when the ATM came out, that it would replace a lot of jobs. The reality was it actually created multiple jobs, multiples of jobs for the banking industry. And a lot of that came down to the fact that it reduced the kind of manual labor that people were doing that was holding banks back. I think the same is true when it comes to machine learning and artificial intelligence. People who are skilled and qualified will continue to find new ways to apply their skills and their experience to be able to expand the industry overall. And what we're generally seeing, what I'm seeing machine learning being applied in my industry is in automation around marketing, in automation around decisioning, and those are not taking the place of people. They're helping to augment and make people more efficient. So generally speaking, what I would say in terms of this industry is think of how you can complement how machine learning can be applied to businesses. Think about the human element to that equation and how you can then take some of the manual steps out of a process through machine learning and artificial intelligence and apply the human element to that, which really connects people back to technology.
I think the other thing that you can do now to prepare for that, or that you can do in the future, is you have to be adaptable. You cannot get into your career and right out of college and think, cool, this is what I'm going to be doing for the next 20 years, because that's just not the reality of our jobs in the future. Not that probably any of you think that. I mean, the average person, college-age person, is going to change their career 7 times in their lifespan. So, just being the person who can roll with the punches and be adaptable and think more broadly and more abstractly about what your skills are and what you bring to the table can kind of help you navigate a space that's always changing.
So just really quickly, so before I came to Lucid, I was working with Amazon on the Alexa team, and I think that's a concern we heard often, because as there's developments in computer vision and artificial intelligence and machine learning, there's always a fear that we're building these things to replace. But I think that in reality, we're just trying to make things more efficient, right? We're trying to add value to existing processes, and it's important to be flexible and kind of pivot as times progress to make sure that it's okay to have a focus and a very strict goal, but don't be afraid to adapt as things around you change.
Great. We'll go to Morgan, and then we'll have a question from Tanya.
I think the word we're looking for is scrappy. We all need to be scrappy, right? Don't get boxed in. It's kind of like everyone else said. You need to be able to change, and that's the only constant in your life. And so you do whatever you can to get used to that. Personally, at HireVue, our product, we do use artificial intelligence and machine learning and IO psychology, and our research and development department is taking over our floor. So, they've grown from that. We have 2 floors in a building. They were in the 6th floor, and I'm scared they're going to kick us out of our room. So, that's something that, we're going to need ideas behind that. It's kind of like, everyone else is saying, we definitely need that human element, always, to be able to relate and to connect on that human level.
That's great. So we have a question from Tanya, and I know we want to leave time for each and every one of you to answer this question.
So I love that last question, and I think I've probably been out of college longer than I'd like to admit, but when I look at each of your companies and what they've done that affect my life all of the time, the way that I could finance a home or pay student loans off, the way that I might interview for a job now and get a job, the way that I could pay rent or as a property manager take rent, the way that work flows, project management, and then, obviously providing electricity to your home. Those are huge differences from when I just graduated from college, which hasn't been that long, really, right? So my last question is, we've heard a lot of great insight, we've heard a lot of great information about all of your companies, so I just want you each to take 1 minute and tell us, what is the single greatest trait you look for in someone that you want to work with at your company, somebody that you want to hire, someone that you want to have sitting in the desk next to you?
Great, and we'll start in the back, if it's all right, with Ashley,
Yep.
And then we'll have that mic snake around the back down to Steve, and then over to Kasey.
Awesome. That's a great question. I think I would say passion. We have, when I go out and recruit and I say I'm a tech company, I have people from all across the board. They're like, oh, I'm in education or psychology. I don't code. I can't fit in here. But I don't tell them they're wrong in my head. I'm thinking they're wrong, but just because we have such a wide variety between our products and the different opportunities that we offer, we love looking for that passion, somebody that's interested in bringing what they have to the table, passion for change, passion for helping change people's lives. For us, that's obviously on the client base, but also when you think about our biggest client has upwards of 100,000 individual apartment units, and you think of the families and the individuals living in those units that we're changing their lives. And we look for somebody that kind of has that mentality of looking all the way down the line from what they're doing with our product, how they're developing it out, the customer relationships that they're building, and the passion to kind of join us in that opportunity, that journey. So I would say passion. It might sound generic, but it's very important at Entrata.
I would say people who can create relevance. You're going to have experience in whatever you're researching, right? Whatever you're going to graduate in. If you can, relate that and implement that into, kind of what you're interviewing for, as well as who you are. You want to implement that too, because you are an individual, and companies are looking for individuals. It's hard to stand out in a sea of, everyone's on social media, they're all doing this, right? It seems like we're all, doing the same things. But if you can create relevance with your experience and who you are, I think that will really help you stand out.
I've definitely already mentioned this, but I think for me personally, and I think for SoFi broader, on a broader level, and maybe Adam can echo this or maybe disagree, I don't know, but grit and drive are the things that we care about. We want people who are going to push to get the job done, to do whatever it takes to get things finished, to be the problem solvers. I think one of the questions was, how do you know that you're going to love your job and feel like it has meaning every day? And I think that the reality, especially if you want to go into a tech startup type of environment, is that you're not going to love your job every day. There are days when you're going to feel like what you're doing doesn't matter. On balance, hopefully, it's not going to be like that every single day, but there are going to be days where you're like, this is hard. This is hard work. The changes that are constantly coming in tech companies are sometimes overwhelming. And so the person, you're going to be successful for us, or at least if you're the type of person who can just put your head down, drive through it and get your work done, even on the days that are maybe harder than others.
I do agree with you. Pretty simple. I think being innovative, great communicator, hardworking, willingness to fail, and willingness to succeed, and analytical. I think those are the things that will help you in your search and in your career. And if you can demonstrate those every day and feed those every day with allowing them to grow, I think you'll be very successful.
Thank you. So I'd put two things together. One is doers and communicators. I work with a lot of people who can talk a lot, and I don't like working with those people. If that's all they do is talk. I like to work with people who can communicate and get things done.
All right. I think at Vivint Solar I think you can sum it up by saying authenticity, because startup life it's moves so fast, and the thing is in all our industries is that your strengths are going to surface. And your weaknesses are also going to surface. But it's the authenticity piece and being genuine in who you are, which is something that we value. Because if you come in and you are who you truly are, and you're vulnerable, and you're willing to learn, and you're willing to get your hands dirty and roll up your sleeves, there'll be a place for you. But if it's you come in and it's not a place for you, and the values and the goals aren't aligning, then it's not a good fit. So really, I just think it comes back to being who you are and knowing who you are and being authentic.
I think if I were to boil it down, I would say passion and curiosity. I think that coming out of college, I think, can be a tough time because you have a lot of knowledge, but you don't have a lot of work experience. And I think one of the interviews that has stuck out to me over the last week was an individual who didn't have much work experience, but he was interviewing for an analytics role, and while he didn't have much work experience, he spent quite some time sharing a predictive model he had built to determine probability of success for League of Legends, a game he was playing at the time. So based on the pieces at play, he would plug different things into this model and determine how well or not well his team would do. And something like that, where you can build value without having proper work experience in the things that you're learning, the things that you're gathering over your education, I think speaks volumes.
So, of course, I'm last, and mine are already all taken. So my number one is passion. Passion because you can sense that when you're talking to someone immediately. I feel like relevance comes from passion. I feel like grit comes from passion. People just want to work hard and dive in when they're passionate about something. My second was authenticity, because I feel like communication comes from that, where you just get a real feeling for who that person is, and you feel like you can trust them and obviously innovate with them if they're being authentic and passionate about what they're doing.
Great, that's some awesome insight. We want to thank Steve, Khang, Chris, Kasey, Adam, Allie, Morgan, and Ashley. We have a Huntsman swag bag for them, but we also want to give them a Huntsman thank you. So please join me in a round of applause for them.